Bob Hall with Hallsome Farms again. Today we're lining and filling up gravel beds for the aquaponics system. I've got some guys helping me. We have this bed we just did and filled it up with rock. This bed we just put the liner on, and I'll show you in a minute how to cut the hole for the bulkhead. And here you can see the guys are getting ready to put another liner in. The most critical part is you can see them working on the corners. You got to make sure that the corners are in nice and snug. And then over here on the end, you want to make sure that there's no crease or gap in the liner so that water will leak through. So you want to make sure that your liner comes all the way through the edge and that you've got the corners in nice and snug. Work together, and once they're in, just use a hammer staple to secure them. Secure the corners first. And come and do this other corner. And make sure that it's in nice and snug. Okay, hold on. Lift that up. See how it's underneath? That'll leak. So we want to make sure we got that.
Okay.
There you go. Hopefully we cut that on the camera, because that little area there, that would have leaked water and we would have never figured out where the water was coming from. So all this excess on the sides we can always cut off later. So the corners are real critical. Now we want to make sure that we get the edges all snug. Make sure the inside, make sure both sides, there we go. Out of staples?
Yeah.
We just loaded more staples. This is just a hammer staple that we use, and we're using T50 half-inch staples, which is enough to secure the liner, because once we get the gravel in the bed, the liner's not going to go anywhere. But we want to make sure it's nice and secure before we put the rock in. Now I'll show you how to cut the hole for the bulkhead. Okay, so to put in the bulkhead, we pre-drilled the holes. Michael, is there a bulkhead? Can you hand me that bulkhead there? And this is the bulkhead we're going to be using. It's a 1.5 inch bulkhead. I wouldn't go any smaller than that because you'll get roots clogged down and it'd just be a problem. So we pre-drilled the hole, and if you can see, I don't know if you can see on the video, but here's the indentation where my fingers are. So what you want to do is you want to create a star pattern when you cut. So you find where the indentation is, take your knife right on the edge, and you cut straight through. And then you do that all the way around. And I always do it in a star pattern because it's easier to cut the little pieces once you get the pattern cut. Okay, so now we have our star pattern cut. Now we want to take the knife and just cut the stars out. Doing it this way the hole that we cut will be just slightly undersized from the gaskets of the bulkhead, which we'll just force fit in. And it's easier to be undersized and not leak than oversized and have a leak. Because this is going to keep the water where we want it and let it go out where we want it to leave the gravel bed. Okay, now don't set the knife back down in there because you cut the plastic and have to re-put in a whole new liner. So these bulkheads are threaded on the inside and the outside, and they come with 3 gaskets, 2 rubber gaskets and a cardboard gasket. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the rubber gaskets and we're going to put it up underneath between the plywood underneath and the liner. So we're between that. Got the other gasket right here on the bulkheads. So now, even though it'll be kind of a tight fit, there, we force that in there, and then if you'll help screw it up underneath, now we've got a gasket below the liner and one above the liner on both sides of the bulkhead, and we just screw it up from underneath. Put the gasket on and then the nut, screw it on. That'll help hold it in place. Okay, now the big pliers are right there. And then just to give it a good snug, we've got these pliers that I call jaws, and we'll give it a quarter, half turn just to snug it in real tight, and then that'll prevent any water from leaking through. Okay, this is the next step. Now that we've got the liners and the bulkheads in, these are the shrouds that will keep the rock away from our hole. And in aquaponics, you always do what's called a triple double, which means we have a 1.5 inch bulkhead, so we're going to have a 1.5 inch stem pipe. If these were going to be bell siphons, we would have a 3 inch bell siphon go over this, and then we'd have the 6 inch shroud, which is going to fit over here. So we'd have the 1.5 standpipe, the 3 inch bell siphon, and this. These beds, however, we're not going to use bell siphons. They're going to be a flood and drain system, but we still have to use the shroud, and I make these myself. You can buy 6 inch pipe, you cut it 12 inches, and then I made myself a little fixture where we just cut these little grooves in. You could drill 1/4 inch holes, whatever you need to do, just so that the water will flow. And I've learned from experience, when I make some other videos, you'll see some of my other greenhouses where I do use bell siphons. I put the bell siphons at one end of the bed, and what happens over the years is the water, they're so efficient, as things build up and clog into the system, the water on one end won't reach the other end by the time the bell siphon's already done its job. So now, on my new systems, you can see these bulkheads are in the center, and I'm doing flood and drain. That way, if we start getting some root buildup, and we'll have worms in here making castings and things like that, as the water slows down, it's okay, because we're just gonna leave enough time for it all to come to the center and drain, and it's got equal distances, so it won't have to go from a full 8 feet it'll be able to go 4 foot and we'll be able to drain quicker. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold the shroud here, and then we're going to start filling in the rock. And typically what I do is about 2/3, and we'll show you. We use some bigger rock, and then I put crushed granite on top because it's nice and cool and in the summertime, and it stays warm in the wintertime, and it's tight enough that you can seed in it. It's just a good way to do your system. So we'll show you putting in the rock here in just a minute. Okay, before we put in the rock, you can see we got another one, another gravel bed done. I always like to put in a little bit of water just as a cushion as we're putting rocks in, just so that you know, it breaks. Sometimes those rocks have sharp edges, and it's just a little bit of a cushion, and you don't need a whole lot, but just enough so that the rock go in a little smoother. Okay, that should be good enough. Alright, we've got all 4 beds on this side of the greenhouse done. What happened, you can see here, these plastic totes. I had originally did the greenhouse in these totes, thinking that was a good idea, and they lasted about 2 years, and they started to crack under the weight of the rock and the sun, and so I went back here, just built the a wood box. It's absolutely the best way to do it. If you're gonna spend the money building an aquaponics system, don't go cheap. Just do it right, and let me make the mistakes, and I'll teach you how to save some money, because I thought this would be a cheaper alternative. I've tried it, and it didn't work. So, but I've had wood beds that have lasted going on 7 years now. So that's definitely the way to go. Hope this video was helpful. This is Bob Hall with Hallsome Farms, and if you like what we're doing here on the farm, please subscribe to our video channel. Thanks for watching.